Hello everybody, how's it going? It's JewJuBee here and welcome to this episode of our Let's Play Planet Zoo series. In this series we are building a franchise. We are not playing in franchise mode, we are playing in sandbox mode, however, just so I can have more control over the settings. An example of that is right here. I decided to add some gharial alligators to our saltwater crocodile exhibit. Naturally in the game they'll fight and kill each other, so I went ahead and turned off the predatorial features in the game so that we can just get like a whole bunch of crocodiles and alligators in this exhibit, and it definitely adds a lot more people to the park, and it makes this very large exhibit definitely seem like there's a lot more going on. Originally I was going to divide it in half and put one on one side and one on the other, but I really didn't want to disturb everything that we've already done, so I just went ahead and added them to the exhibit, and it just had to add a little bit of sand, but it definitely worked out. But in this episode, we're actually going to be adding a new exhibit back behind the turtles, back behind the information exhibit, or have the information building. We're going to be building a kimono exhibit. And while we are building the kimono exhibit, I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about the kimono dragon itself and how it's been affected by things like overexploitation, illegal poaching, and the exotic pet trade is what I mostly want to talk about. For those of you who don't know, what we're doing in each episode is picking a topic that relates to whatever it is we're building, and I'm going to talk to you guys about it and how it affects the environment. So for this one, it's mostly the exotic pet trade. That was a tongue twister. I have quite a lot to talk about it, so hopefully we can get it all in this episode. But so the Komodo dragon is classified as a vulnerable species, and things like volcanic activity, earthquakes, loss of habitats, fire, tourism, losing the prey due to their prey that they eat due to poaching, and also illegal poaching of the actual dragons themselves have all contributed to making these the Komodo dragons vulnerable. In 2013, the population of the Komodo dragon in the wild was assessed to be about 3,200, and then it declined to just over 3,000 in 2015, so we lost quite a few in that gap there. The population has remained relatively stable on the islands that the Komodo dragon is known for living on, and the main reason that the population is declining on the smaller islands is mostly because the prey that they eat is being diminished, and mostly because of poaching and the exotic pet trade is what is removing a lot of their prey. An interesting fact actually is that the Komodo dragon can eat an entire goat, like a full-size goat, which is kind of weird, and from what I understand is about 10% of the Komodo dragon population is actually lost to cannibalism. They eat each other, so about 10% of them every year are lost to cannibalism. Actually on the island of Padar, I believe is how you pronounce it, is like one of the islands that Komodo dragons are known for being on. They actually went extinct on that island back in around 1975 is when the last Komodo dragon was seen on that island, so that's kind of crazy to think about. Sorry, my phone's on. So it's kind of crazy to think about that whole island, there's no more Komodo dragons on them. So the species is very sensitive to natural and man-made threats, so they have been recognized by conservationists, zoological societies, and also the Indonesian government. So the Komodo National Park was founded in 1980 to protect the Komodo dragon population on the island of Komodo, Renika, I believe is how you pronounce it, and Padar. And they have also opened a few other reserves on some other islands. So yeah, but as you can see, overexploitation and like illegal poaching and the exotic pet trade have all contributed to the vulnerability of the species. So every year across the world, many exotic animals are captured to be sold illegally as pets. The demand for these are unusually high, so much that poachers can actually make more money by keeping the specimens alive for their buyers as opposed to killing them. So humans have sought exotic pets and unusual animals for centuries, and the desire has only grown since people have learned about these different animals. So yeah, poachers can make a large profit, so people are smuggling a lot of different species. Usually it's like small birds, snakes, frogs, and fish. And the reason is because they're all at higher risk because they're just easier to transport for these people. It's easier to hide them and move them to the location for them to sell them. There was actually, so there's been some reports of Komodo dragons being traded illegally, and there was actually a case cracked in March of 2019. The Indonesian police actually stopped these people from smuggling 41 Komodo dragons out of Indonesia, and they had planned to sell them to a bunch of different other countries in Southeast Asia. And they were planning on selling each Komodo dragon for $35,000 each. So if they would have sold all of them, it would have been $1.5 million they would have made off these Komodo dragons, which is crazy to think about, honestly. So organizations such as the World Wildlife Fund are working to reduce the illegal trafficking, and they attempt to prevent poaching by employing rangers to protect the environments that are vulnerable where animals live. And they are also investigating the trade routes that are often used by the smugglers and encouraging the enforcement of protective legislation by the governments and educating people to reduce the demand for exotic pets. So people are just trying to inform the public and just say, look, you don't need these exotic pets. So this is what's happening to them because you're buying them. So wild animals, their needs can never be met, completely in a home. Yet the popularity of buying them is still increasing. And all these animals are ending up in things like aquariums, terrariums, aviaries, and other enclosures. There are numerous examples of people purchasing these exotic animals for their own personal well-being with the very little knowledge or capability of even keeping these animals in captivity. The documentary Blackfish does do an excellent job of showing how SeaWorld used illegal poachers to collect orcas from the wild with very harsh means so that they can populate their parks. If you haven't watched that, I would recommend it. It's very, very eye-opening about the SeaWorld company. And the harsh conditions that animals are kept in like circuses and unethical zoos has been a very well-known topic in discussion for many years now. When they are born in captivity, wild animals such as elephants and bears and chips and other big cats, they are separated from their families at a very young age, and they can become dependent on humans for things like their very basic needs. Like animals used in circuses and other performances, they endure, cruel training methods with pull hooks and electric prods and whips, and trainers will also withhold food and water from them until they, meet the demands the trainer is trying to get them to do. And usually after the animal no longer serves a purpose to these places, they'll just kind of cast them off to roadside zoos or other really, really terrible facilities. So how can we stop the exotic pet trade and overexploitation of these animals? We can encourage our elected representatives to support legislation to stop the illegal trade, such as the End Wildlife Trafficking Act. We can also express support for the work of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and the U.S. Agency for International Development, and also the Obama administration's Presidential Task Force of Wild Trafficking. These are all been enacted to try and combat this exotic pet trade. We also, whenever we're purchasing pets from a pet store, we can ask the people working there where they got their animals from, and especially show interest that you want to know, are these exotic? Where, whenever you're purchasing exotic snakes and birds and turtles and stuff, you want to know where they are from and if the conditions they were kept in were humane. And if they don't know, you need to do your own research. And this will help to eliminate that exotic pet trade on your level. The more we ask questions, the more empowering we are likely to feel in stopping the illegal trade in wildlife. This effort is bigger than one person. So if we all do our part, we can help to stabilize shrinking the animal population and then reverse their decline. So I hope, this information was very helpful. We are reaching the end of the episode here, actually. And we're going to be having some glamour shots here of our Komodo dragons, but I hope now you'll take that extra step whenever you're thinking about purchasing an animal, about whether or not, they were kept humanely or if they were part of an illegal pet trade. So here you can see we have some glamour shots of the underground viewing area, as well as some of the shots of the actual Komodo dragons in their exhibit. In the next episode, we are going to be building a peafowl exhibit, so I hope to see you guys there. I do have a new website where I am posting all of these things that I'm talking about on a blog and a few other interesting facts about the environment. So I will leave that in the link in the description box below. Leave a like if you are enjoying the video. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions or questions, and I'll be glad to answer them below. I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.